So in the most recent live stream for The Chosen, Dallas gave us 2 new scenes, one of which is already up on the channel. This one is actually a furthering of a scene, a little snippet of a scene that we had previously from Teal Tuesday. In the Teal Tuesday scene, we only got about 40 seconds. This one, we're getting the whole entire scene, which is several minutes long. Lots to break down here, so let's watch it, then we'll break it down.
Shalom.
Judas.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Is this a bad time? I didn't know you were here, but I've been hoping to speak to you.
John has kept my secret. Would you like to sit?
Yes. Very much, thank you.
Please.
Well. So we've arrived at the critical moment.
There have been so many.
All of Israel has gathered in one place, ready to crown you king. The popularity amongst them has never been greater. Rome is sitting on its hands, hoping this will all blow over. And they may even be delighted by what you said about taxes.
I see.
But it's going to be easy for your adversaries in the temple to weaponize what you said about the taxes and spread ill will amongst the people like a disease, and everything will deteriorate rapidly. The window of opportunity is closing, even as we speak.
Sounds like you have some ideas.
You called each of us for a reason. I've been a successful businessman in the past, and I've experience with human persuasion. So I can tell when a deal is on the verge of closing or losing big. It is a knife's edge.
And so to adopt your language for a moment, what is the deal you're proposing I close?
Lay claim to your birthright. You are the Messiah, son of David. And the people are so convinced they're singing songs in your name. It's time.
And if I don't do whatever big thing you've imagined I should do at this time, will you still believe?
Of course I will.
Then why are you suggesting that you know better than I do what should be the next best course of action?
Look, I trust you. Do you trust me?
What sort of question is that?
You believe I have something to offer this group? Yes?
I do.
Then why won't you take my advice? Am I not here to help you?
I've never asked you for your advice.
Then what am I here for? If I am no use to your kingdom, then I am nothing.
You have a choice to make, Judas.
I'm listening.
Who you belong to. Who has your heart. I want it. And I've had it before. You followed me willingly.
I want to continue. There's nothing more than I want than that.
Then I will pray for you. But for now, please leave me in peace.
But Rabbi,
Please.
Thank you for your time, Rabbi.
Super interesting there. Really, really interesting scene. Let's go ahead and watch through that again. Let's listen through some of the things that are said here. Right at the beginning, you hear a little bit of foreshadowing as Judas talks about Jesus being crowned the king there. Yeah, really interesting stuff. Let's back this up to the beginning.
Judas.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Is this a bad time? I didn't know you were here, but I've been hoping to speak to you.
John has kept my secret.
So this seems a little bit out of place now that we don't have context for what this is, but the behind the scenes that we've been looking at all year show us that, yes, John and Jesus have had a similar conversation in this area. Not a similar conversation as this, but a similar shot conversation in this area, talking about idols and pagan gods and different things like that. And so here we see as Jesus is saying maybe that this is like his quiet place, like this is where he goes to get away from everybody. This house that we're seeing here is the new place that the group is staying while they're in Jerusalem. We still don't know whose house this is or like what's going on with it, but obviously it's a center point to a lot of where they're kind of based out of when they're here for Passover. So we're seeing that here, but he must have told John that this is kind of his secret place, and John hasn't really told that to anybody else yet, which is why Jesus is making that remark of John keeping his secret, maybe.
Would you like to sit?
Yes. Very much, thank you.
Please.
Well. So we've arrived at the critical moment.
There have been so many.
All of Israel has gathered in one place, ready to crown you king.
So that line right there, crown him king, obviously is not only alluding to him being the king of Israel, him being the Messiah, not the son of David, but also obviously they will crown him, right? The Romans will crown him, but it won't be with a kingly crown. It'll be a crown of thorns. I'm sure Jesus is thinking about that in this moment as well.
The popularity amongst them has never been greater. Rome is sitting on its hands, hoping this will all blow over.
So Judas is again perpetuating what he's talked about since season 4. Judas has been really excited about what is to come, looking forward to the triumphal entry, looking forward to Jesus entering into the city as a king. Judas has been really excited for all of these things to finally come to fruition, right? Out of all the apostles, he thinks that he knows exactly what's going to happen and what the outcome is going to be, when in fact, he's probably the one that's the furthest from the truth. And so here he's like, I thought you were going to do this, but you're actually doing that instead. What is going on here?
And they may even be delighted by what you said about taxes.
I see.
But it's going to be easy for your adversaries in the temple to weaponize what you said about the taxes and spread ill will amongst the people like a disease, and everything will deteriorate rapidly. The window of opportunity is closing, even as we speak.
Sounds like you have some ideas.
You called each of us for a reason. I've been a successful businessman in the past, and I have experience with human persuasion. So I can tell when a deal is on the verge of closing or losing big.
Now, of course, in The Chosen, Judas is a businessman. This is why he thinks that he's here, is to be a businessman. When in actuality, God didn't call Simon the Zealot to be a zealot. He didn't call Matthew to be a tax collector. And yet Judas is still holding on to his past life. He's still holding on to who he used to be, thinking that he can bring those skills in to be the number one reason why he's here, to give business advice, to kind of walk in and tell people what to do and to show them how to close a deal, when in actuality, that's not why Jesus called him.
It is a knife's edge.
And so to adopt your language for a moment, what is the deal you're proposing I close?
So So right there, if you listen closely in the music, you hear this kind of bag being tossed. It sounds like almost like rocks, but I believe it's a bag of coins. And we're going to hear this evolve throughout this whole scene. This song evolves over and over again. And we again hear Judas's theme, which has been present since season 2 of The Chosen.
Claimed your birthright. You are the Messiah, the Son of David. And the people are so convinced they're singing songs in your name.
And the people are so convinced they're singing songs in your name, not the people believe the truth. So here, I think part of what Judas is like kind of going through here is that he's still feeling like this is a con in some sort of way, which is where he comes from with Hadad, right? His old mentor taught him how to con people, how to close deals, was actually tricking them into the worst deal for them, right? Where here he's using that same sort of language. They're so convinced that you could do this. You could take advantage of them almost, is kind of what he's insinuating here.
It's time.
And if I don't do whatever big thing you've imagined I should do at this time, will you still believe?
Right there. Perfect timing. I'm going to back that up just a couple of seconds. Will you still believe? Judas is stunned for a second, and in the music, you hear the coins become more evident. You hear the dropping of the coins right at that moment.
Will you still believe?
And you can see he's lying to himself.
Of course I will.
You see that head shake. That's very purposeful from Luke, the actor who plays Judas. He's saying yes with his mouth, but his body language is saying no. This is a very prominent thing that we see in, for example, cop interrogations, or whenever somebody is just straight up lying to who they're discussing something with. The head will say no, or the body language will say no, and yet the voice is saying something different, right? It's a straight up lie, and we can all see that happening in real time. You can see in his head, if Jesus does not do this, that proves to Judas that maybe he's not who he says he is, or at least maybe he's not doing things in the way that he should. So maybe he'll need some help. Maybe Judas will need to push him towards what he thinks is correct.
Then why are you suggesting that you know better than I do what should be the next best course of action?
Look, I trust you. Do you trust me?
What sort of question is that?
You believe I have something to offer this group? Yes?
I do.
Then why won't you take my advice? Am I not here to help you?
I've never asked you for your advice.
Then
This is really interesting here. We're going to get to what Judas is saying here as well. But think about when you talk to God, right? Are there times when he speaks to you like this? I think there definitely are. I think the writing is really spot on here. We see as Jesus is like, you're not understanding what I'm telling you. I never asked you for this. I never asked you for advice. I never asked you to do this specific thing, and yet you're stuck on it. Like it's the only thing that you can think about. But that's not what you're here to do. That's not why I asked you. That's not why I allowed you to follow me. That's not why I asked you to be part of this group. That's not why I made you one of my apostles. And yet Judas is just not getting that here.
won't you take my advice? Am I not here to help you?
I've never asked you for your advice.
Then what am I here for?
But I also understand the side of Judas. Like, I understand being frustrated and thinking that you have a particular set of skills and that's how God is going to use you. And then he switches it up on you, right? And it's something that you weren't expecting. But if you don't pivot in that and obey him anyway, then you're still the one that's in the wrong, not God, right? It's not like God made a mistake because he's not using your skills in the way that you think that he should. And that's the mistake that Judas is making here.
If I am no use to your kingdom, then I am nothing.
You have a choice to make, Judas.
I'm listening.
Who you belong to. Who has your heart.
This is huge as well. Who you belong to, who has your heart. You have this choice. In scripture, we see that Judas has to make this choice, right? He has to make this choice of, do I belong to Jesus or do I belong to Satan? And in the end, Satan enters his heart. That's the reason why they're using these very specific words here. It's not because Jesus is just flippantly kind of using these words and saying, hey, you need to make a choice, buddy. You need to make the right choice. Either you need to choose me or you need to choose something else that you're following, right? You can only have one master. He is saying those things, but specifically they're writing this language because it fits directly with Scripture and how Satan entered into him. And so clearly, this is leaning towards the Last Supper. This is going to be another moment where we're seeing the progression of Judas throughout this season, getting to the Last Supper, finally going to Caiaphas' house, which we saw in the trailer as well. This is going to be so interesting to break down later on. I cannot wait for this season.
I want it. And I've had it before.
This is an interesting discussion here too. I want it and I've had it before, meaning that Judas was dedicated before. He was willing to do whatever Jesus asked and be obedient to him. I think he's probably referencing the 2x2 here back in season 3, episode 4. We saw as Judas, he was doing the mission of Jesus. He was out there. He was taking out demons from people. He was healing the sick. He was doing the mission of God, and he had Jesus' power within him. And during that time, maybe is what Jesus is saying here, that he was really dedicated to the mission, but now he has his own way, and he's having doubts, and he's having second guesses, and he's not on board with what Jesus is doing here. And he's not trusting Jesus. He's not being obedient to Jesus.
You followed me willingly.
And I want to continue. There's nothing more than I want than that.
Now, I thought for a second here they were going to have Jesus completely reject Judas, but of course that would be the wrong choice biblically. Jesus needs to continue to pursue Judas even in this moment, because most of us, I would say 100%, 99% of us would back away from Judas and separate ourselves from what he is doing here. But Judas has his hands out, and as long as he has his hands out towards Jesus, Jesus will always grab his hands, which is such an amazing moment here.
Then I will pray for you.
And you can see Jesus is pursuing him again. Then I will pray for you. But what does this mean to Judas? Judas is like, oh, so you're saying there's something wrong with me? Oh, so you're saying that I'm in the wrong? You're saying that something that I need to change? What are you talking about? You're obviously the one that's in the wrong, right? And Judas doesn't get it. He still doesn't get it. But Jesus is still willing to pursue him here, which is so beautiful.
But for now, please leave me in peace.
Good Rabbi,
Please.
And there's the Judas theme. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da.
Thank you for your time, Rabbi.
There it is. You can hear the coins again becoming a really big theme. At this point, I truly believe they're writing this from the perspective of Judas has just made up his mind of what he's going to do, or at least gone at least a step closer to it, but definitely he's getting to that point of betrayal here. So we have even the vocalist there resonating in that same ba-da-da, that same Judas theme musically. You can see how hard this is for Jesus as well. He knows what's coming. He knows what Judas is here to do. He knows what he's going to do. Yet this is still hard because Judas is a friend. Judas is a student of his. He's been with him for the better part of the last 3 years, right? And so it had to have been very difficult. It wasn't just a flippant, like, okay, do what you're going to do. This was a major betrayal, not just to his ministry, not just to Jesus, but of their friendship. Yeah, that's so hard. Again, you hear those coins building up. And this is the room where all of them are staying. So Big James is just here, either writing something or reading something or doing something in there. And that's the end. Really interesting scene. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Oh man, some really good stuff in that one. I am so excited for a lot of characters this season. Shmuel being a huge one. If you didn't see my breakdown of the Shmuel scene that I just put on the channel, go and check that one out. It'll be right at the end of this video. So anyway, love you guys very much. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.